Alright, let's see how we doing here. Check the stream first. It seems like the stream is fine. Alright, welcome back. If you are watching, we're just gonna continue. But we're not gonna continue where we left off, I think. See, I saw this video right here. Are you an intermittent guitar player? So I watched this video earlier. And this guy really just talks about like, well, are you like an intermediate guitar player, right? And what does, well, like what 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 things does a guitarist have to learn to not be considered a beginner? And I thought that was interesting. So he talks about how, if you are above the beginner level playing guitar, if you've learned the common open chords, so that's 8, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8. Yeah. So you learn the 8 like common open chords, and then you've learned some bar chords. And then I know what this is memorized. What's memorized
pretty well. Okay, flowing kind of from the power chords and bar chords thing is I think that you need to have the notes on the low E and A strings memorized. And this is really cool because
right. Yeah, so basically you just need to know like the E, this F, G, A, B, C, D, E. Okay, and there's A string as well. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. Just basically need to know that and like how do you get there or whatever. It's basically the scales, right? It's horizontal scales. That's how you get there, basically. And then
as you work on your bar chords and power chord strokes and upstrokes going, and you need to be able to play through some basic eighth note strumming patterns.
This is downstroke, upstroke. Play it on rhythm. Well, need some sort of rhythm, and timing here. So you can play it on the beat or whatever. So 3, 4, this is every quarter note. I fucked up. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2. That's it's like playing a quarter notes and playing like half. Two, 3, 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3. So like fucking eighth notes. 3, 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, know, 16 notes. And 1 and 2. I think this is 8 notes actually. Yeah, I got offbeat there, so I sucked there. I mean, but you know, general understanding, like tempo. Like like general understanding of tempo, and then you need to like have a grasp of like the what note is what note. So like if I pick this, I need to know what note this is. That's C sharp. Because this is C. This is B. But that's because I know like why the fretboard is, not like really what the sound is. So like I need to know this sound is a C sharp sound. But I only need to know a little bit. So like this is E. You know, that's an E sound. And this is an A. And here D. These are both D sound on different octaves. You need to know that. So this is G. Wait, no, this is G. I'm sorry. This is B. Yeah, it's like that is what that sound is. But that takes some time. That takes like experience as well. So like you wouldn't really. You have like a general idea for it, but like you don't really know exactly what it is. So I think that's why. So the reason why I'm like showing you this video is because basically for the future lessons I might skip around the first grade here. Right. Gone through these and then a few here. So my idea is, yeah, I'm just gonna take the ones that I just very weak in. So this next module, the third module here, I might skip over most of it. So I know what they are. So I know what a minor chord is. You need to know the difference between a minor and a major. So for example, this is a major. Generally a major sounds happier and a minor sounds sad. Then he's basically saying like how to hold the guitar, counting the ands in your, what is it, metronome. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4. But then like if it's a bit slower, you're gonna count the ands, so it's gonna be like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. All that up strum. I might need to watch this one. My up strum is kind of weak with a pick. So yeah, I think I'm gonna skip through these. I'm just gonna go like holding the guitar, counting ands and whatnot. I'm just gonna like look at what it is
Hey, how you doing? Justin here, and welcome to lesson 3 of my beginner guitar course. I really hope your fingers aren't hurting too bad. It's kind of likely that they still are a bit. It's kind of the next few weeks that you'll probably find that the pain starts to lessen a bit. It's generally, for most people, a few months worth of practice before the pain goes away completely, but hopefully you'll start getting more obsessed with your chord changes and your strumming, and you'll forget about the finger pain quite so much. And that's kind of the focus of this particular lesson. We've got 2 new chords to learn, so we're going to learn how to play A minor and E minor, very, very important chords. We'll talk a bit about minor chords and what they are as well. We're also going to be spending quite a lot of time focused on rhythm in this lesson, okay? Learning solid rhythm guitar and learning how to strum properly is a really big deal. And if you can strum well and play in time, people will like the sound of what you're doing. Okay, strumming's the kind of thing that's been with our species for thousands of years, whereas our musical harmony is only hundreds of years old. So people really notice if rhythm goes wonky, much more so than if you play a chord slightly wrong. Okay, if the rhythm goes wrong, people kind of feel it. Whereas if you play a wrong chord, they have to hear it. That's less likely they're going to be bothered by that. So learning to really develop your rhythm strongly and really understanding how it's working, I think, could be a pretty powerful thing. Another thing on the agenda for today is to have a look at capos or capos. They're a really useful beginner tool that'll allow you to play along with original recordings of songs that you really dig. And they're also useful for changing the keys of songs if you want to sing along. If your song's too low for you, then it enables you to kind of lift the key so that it'll fit the range of your voice a little bit better. We'll talk a bit more about that later on, but let's start off with a look at minor chords.
So the tempo section here is probably like here. Around here, so it's like, you know, actually watch some of these. I can probably skip around. It's minor chords to see what's up.
Hey, how you doing? Justin here, back with you for a look at minor chords. I'm sure many of you have heard about minor chords, right? You've heard of them. Somewhere along your way you've heard about major and minor. Maybe you've heard this idea that major chords are happy and minor chords are sad, that minor keys have got a sad feeling, and they're not far from the truth. We're going to look at it a little bit deeper than that though as well. So the first chord we're going to have a look at and I want to play for you is an E major chord. Well, you should all be very familiar with that now. To make it a minor chord, we're just going to lift off our first finger. We're going to talk a bit more in detail about playing this chord in a second. I mainly want you to listen. So here's major. Here's minor. There's definitely a kind of sadness going on there in a minor key. Sometimes they can be deceiving. If you just hear one on your own and you're not doing used to doing any ear training or recognizing of major or minor chords, you might start to mistake them. That can take a little bit of practice. But definitely when you play the major chord followed by the minor chord, you can usually hear, oh, one's happy and one's sad. And that's worth paying attention to. Now, it might first seem that we're playing 6 notes when we play a chord, especially when we're strumming all 6 strings, but actually there's only 3 notes. Some of them are doubled. For our E chord, we're actually playing E, B, E, G sharp, B, and E. So it's actually only E, G sharp, and B are the notes in an E major chord, but some of them have been doubled. Again, that was E, B, E, G sharp, B, E. Now, some of you might have noticed that the G sharp note only appeared once, okay, on the 3rd string. And that's the note that when we flatten it, it changes to minor. So we've changed this G sharp note to a G note. Now, it's not always the case that just one note will move on a guitar to change a chord from a major chord to a minor chord, but it is quite often the case, and it is with the basic open minor chords that we're going to be looking at in this beginner course. So just to prove the theory here, I'm just going to show you very quickly the A major chord and then the A minor chord. You can see actually it's just this note changing to this note. There's A major, there's A minor. And actually one we're not looking at this week, but D to D minor. Again, it just has this one note change. So there's a couple of takeaways that I want you to get from this that will help you remember all of your chords. First of all, for the minor chords that we're learning in this beginner course, they're only one note different to the major chords. Okay, the fingering is often going to look a little different, but the actual note, the dots themselves, are only going to have one note difference between E major, E minor, A major and A minor, and D major and D minor. And the second thing I want you to catch is the sound of the chords themselves. I want you to start to recognize the sound, the character of a major chord, and the sound of a minor chord, the character, the personality. Because if you start to recognize them, it'll save you making any disastrous mistakes. If you're reading a chord chart and somebody's forgotten to write M on there next to the chord and you play a major instead of a minor, your ears should pick you up and go, oh, hang on, no, this is the wrong one. This one should be a minor chord. That level of kind of internal understanding and musicianship, I think, could be a really useful thing, even really at the beginner stage. The other thing I should mention just quickly as well is where minor isn't written, we assume major. So if you just see E written, you would assume it's E major. If you see E M or E min, M-I-N, or E minor, you would play a minor chord. So it's written all of those different ways. Just a little lowercase m, M-I-N, dot usually, like short for minor, or the full term minor is often written out as well. So now in this lesson, we're just going to be checking out E minor and A minor, and then the future lesson we're going to be checking out D minor, because it's a little bit more tricky.
Nice.
Better to get to grips with E minor and A minor first of all.
Yeah, so I think we're going to skip the next two.
Hey, how you doing? Justin back with you for a look at the E minor chord. Okay, this is probably the easiest chord that we've looked at so far.
Okay, this is a bit long.
Hey, how you doing? Justin here, back with you for a look at the A minor chord. There's a few interesting things going on here with this chord. Let's start off by looking at an A major chord. And then we've got to change it to an A minor chord. Look, all of the fingers have got to change. So slightly different from the E major to E minor, where you just lift a finger off. So here, we've got everything off. Second finger can kind of stay down. Third finger moves over and first finger goes down to get to our minor chord. Now, A major to A minor is a fairly rare kind of a chord change. Happens occasionally, but it's not a super common one. One that's more common is A minor to E, or A minor to E minor. Now, hopefully, you kind of recognize A minor if I'm playing it like that and go, hang on, I've seen that one before, but it looks slightly different. You would be very right. It looks the same as E major, but on the wrong string. So there's A minor. If we move all of the fingers down one string, we get E major. Not E.
Yeah, I think I can skip this as well. I understand that. Okay, let's go. Going. Holding the guitar.
Hey, how you doing? Justin here. Today I want to talk a little bit about how you hold your guitar. A really common problem that I see for beginners is trying to hold the guitar neck with the fretting hand. And it's really important that the hand that's holding the chords down has nothing to do with holding the guitar itself. Nothing at all. Okay? So your guitar wants to feel really nice and stable whether this hand is on or not. It shouldn't be moving around. Like if you lift your fretting hand off, the neck of the guitar shouldn't really be moving at all. It wants to feel really super stable. Now, the shape of the guitar, the cutaway, is designed to sit on your leg. But you might find often guitars are either a bit body heavy or neck heavy. This particular one's actually about perfect for me. It seems to sit right in exactly in the right place where it works for me. A lot of guitars, particularly like Les Paul type guitars, Gibson Les Paul types, they have the headstock which is a little bit heavy and wants to droop down a bit. And some other guitars like Telecasters can be a bit body heavy so that the neck wants to lift up a little bit. Both of those things are not what you want. So you want to use this arm to kind of stabilize it. On acoustic guitar, you probably want to be resting your arm on the top of the guitar anyway, and the pressure of your arm sitting down like that will press into that little curve and hold the guitar in a nice place. Actually, this guitar is perfect. It's almost like having an acoustic guitar in that I can rest my arm on it. But for most electric guitars, you want the kind of the grip of your skin, your forearm, on the guitar itself. That's where the weight comes, and it kind of holds the guitar both against your body and into your leg. So it does want to feel really quite rigid here, where your fingers are going to be pressing on the guitar strings. It doesn't want to be wobbling around while you're trying to play your chords. If it is, you're not holding the guitar right. It's one of the things, like I nearly always roll my sleeve right up when I'm playing. Even on this guitar, if my sleeve is like that, it feels looser, like I can't I'm not really able to hold the guitar as tightly as I want because I can't feel the pressure of it. I can't feel how I'm gripping the guitar. Whereas as soon as I've done that, it feels tighter, it feels more locked in. So something just to be aware of if you're finding that the guitar neck's wobbling around a bit. Just pay attention to how you're holding it and how you're gripping onto the guitar. It shouldn't be tense. You want to feel kind of relaxed and loose all the time when you're playing. So part of the trick, and as I'm progressing with my left-handed playing, I'm really noticing now that it's becoming more important that how I feel with the guitar, how it's sitting in my lap properly. So it's the kind of thing I want to give you a heads up now so you can start to just pay a little bit of attention to that when you're doing your practice to make sure that it feels real comfortable how you're sitting and nice and solid as well.
Oh, this.
Hey, how you doing? Justin back with you for a little talk about ands. Yeah, ands. When we count in music, in between a beat, we have an and. It's usually written as a little plus sign. So I'm sure you're familiar already with this idea that we talked about having 4 beats in the bar. So when we're strumming 4 beats to the bar, or strumming in the down strums, we're playing 1, 2, 3, 4, and our hand would generally move down with that. So we'd have in this 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, in between each one of those down strums, our hand is actually coming up as well, and we might want to strum with that up strum, like later this lesson. So we want a way to write that down, and we use the and in between the numbers where the up strum comes. So we'd have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and.
Yeah.
Now, one thing that I'd really recommend you get used to saying is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and. Just practice saying it. I know it seems ridiculous. Okay, if somebody had told me that when I was 15 years old, I should practice going home and go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and I would have thought they were absolutely crazy. But I've seen really great results from people getting better at rhythm guitar just by being able to count, and count evenly. So have a go at doing that, tapping your foot along and thinking 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and tapping just on the 1, 2, 3, 4, but counting 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Try and get used to being able to say it. It doesn't want to be scatty rhythmically. It wants to be consistent. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, not 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. Okay, we're after consistency here. A nice flow is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Tapping your foot is always a great thing to be doing. Okay, you definitely want to be trying to train yourself up to tap your foot whenever there's music on. It's a really great thing to be working on. You might want to try doing this as well, just moving your hand and going like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. You could do that even without a guitar. I mean, it might look a little bit weird if you were doing it at a bus stop, right? But anytime, more or less, that you're on your own, there aren't people to look at you and think that you're a bit peculiar, just practicing the 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and trying to train up this little kind of, I don't know what we call it, subroutines in your brain that connect this 1, 2, 3 and the 4 with the down strum and the and with the up. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Practice saying it as much as you can. Really, it'll pay dividends as we get going through this course a little later on. So have a bit of a practice on that. We're now going to have a look at the up strum.
Let's see what's the up strum's about.
Hey, how you doing? Justin here. Hope you're doing great. Today we're going to talk about up strums. It's something that I get asked about by a lot of beginners. They're nowhere near as difficult as people think. In fact, they're just as easy as doing a down strum. But because probably in the journey thus far you've mostly been doing down strums, the first time you try and do an up strum might feel just a bit peculiar because you haven't done it before. But don't be scared. By the end of this lesson, you're going to feel a lot more confident about the idea of making an up strum as well. Now, I want to emphasize here the importance of having a thin pick. Okay, I'm using this Jim Dunlop nylon. It's 0.38 millimeters. It's like a piece of paper or cardboard. You could probably get away with using a piece of cardboard if you shaped it like a pick, or just get yourself a really thin pick. It really makes a difference. In the week 3 of my left-handed study, I only had a thick pick. I didn't have a thin pick, and it really made strumming very, very difficult. I really didn't enjoy it at all. So make sure you found yourself a thin pick before you get going with using your upstrokes. It makes a big difference. So the first thing to realize when we're going to get into upstrokes is that they come in between downstrokes. Sounds pretty obvious, right? So the down strums are 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we've got 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... Now if you're doing 4 down strums before, you were already doing upstrokes in between. You just weren't strumming the strings. Okay, so first thing to realize, just use your fingers to mute all of the strings so you're not even going to make a sound if you do touch the strings. But we're going to start by not touching the strings even. So just using your hand, getting used to the feeling of 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and down.
Yo, he
up,
lost tempo, dude.
Down, up, down, up. You want to practice doing that. If you think that might be a struggle, pause this video now and just have a little bit of a run through. Make sure that you can get that feeling where your hand is moving quite relaxed, up and down, or down and up. Now we're going to move it on to playing the guitar, and the first thing I want you to do is I want you to try and strum all of the strings each time. Okay, so just going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... Count along with it as you're doing it. It's a really good idea. Might feel a little bit silly in the early stages, but just 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and getting used to the count, getting used to the movement, solidifying in your body and in your mind 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and this relationship between the 1, 2, 3 and the 4 and the down motion and the and the up motion. Something that you really want to build a strong relationship with. Particularly you should be tapping your foot as well. I wasn't tapping my foot then, but you should be tapping your foot with the 1, 2, 3 and the 4 as well. Okay, all of those things combined and make a big difference. Now, the reality of it is, when you're doing an up strum, it's usually just the thinnest 3 or 4 strings. The down strum will lead you kind of in toward the body of the guitar, and the up strum moves slightly away. It's very rare that you strum all of the strings with an up strum. You can choose to do it. So I will sometimes choose to strum all of the strings, but there's a kind of general principle for beginners. You want to think that an upstroke is just going to be the thinnest few strings, the thinnest 3 or 4 strings, not all of them. So being aware of that now, I want you to try the same thing again and just go down, up. But with the upstroke, you're kind of coming slightly away from the guitar. Okay, if I try and line it up, so down, in, and then up. You're kind of coming away a little bit. Not like out, right? We're not going silly. Just a little bit away. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... So I'm not really... On the upstroke, I'm definitely not hitting the thickest 2 strings at all. They're not getting touched at the moment. Now, at this speed, when it's very, very slow and I'm kind of concentrating, it might feel not quite natural, but I can promise you that's what's going to happen when you 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... I think understanding that the up strum is usually only going to strum the thinnest few strings can be a really helpful thing. It's a whole heap of worry that you don't have to have that, oh, I'm not strumming all of the strings. Okay, particularly the thicker strings. For a lot of the chords that we're playing, we don't want to strum the thicker strings anyway. For a D minor chord or an A minor chord, we don't want to play the thicker string anyway. So if you're doing an up strum, to be able to kind of strum up and then get away on the 5th string, say, for an A minor chord, just strum up and then not the thicker string. I mean, who can do that? I can't do that. That would be like really, really impossible. So that's part of the reason why just strumming on the thinner strings works really well. The other thing is actually it sounds better. So when you strum all of the strings, it doesn't quite have the same swing as...
Yeah. Sounds about right.
Here's all again. Here's just the ups. Sorry, just the thinner strings on the up. It sounds better when the up strum is just focused on the thinnest few strings. So make sure you bear that in mind while we check out the following strumming patterns that incorporate the up strum.
Let's start with the down, down, up, up, down. The classic.
Hey, how you doing? Justin here, back with you for a look at our very first strumming pattern that involves an up strum. And we're going to put an up strum after beat 2. So first of all, fingers wrapped around so we've got a fully muted guitar neck. We're going to practice 1, 2, and 3, 4. So we're going to strum down, down, up, down, down. 1, 2, and 3, 4. If you ever saw that pattern written out, it would literally be down, down, up, down, down, or D, D, U, D, D. Okay? You could also see it written down as 1, 2, and 3, 4, and you know that you're going to play an up strum on the and, right? So it's going to be down, 1 will be down, 2 will be a down, the plus, the and will be an up, and then the following 3 and 4 will both be down strums. First thing to do is just practice it real slow. So just going through 1, 2, and 3, 4. Remembering that the up strum isn't going to strum all of the strings. 1, 2, and 3, 4. Trying to keep the movement really nice and smooth. So it's kind of like pendulum. Kind of like a pendulum. 1, 2, and 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4. And you want to practice this a lot. Just doing exactly this motion, counting along. 1, 2, and 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4. If strumming is something that you struggle with, definitely add some extra time practicing this into your practice routine, okay? You should know after the first couple of days of practice whether it's feeling kind of okay. For most people it will feel not easy, but you'll know that if you can do it kind of in time and you've got that kind of pendulum feeling with your forearm there and it's moving nice and evenly, that you're probably on the right track. Okay, so just think, don't worry about metronomes and any of that sort of stuff yet. Just play, keep it nice and simple. 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4. Do remember to be forgiving of yourself if you're finding this a little bit difficult. For most people, strumming is the hardest part of learning guitar. Okay? Finger pain, yes. Chord changes, yes. Strumming, everybody has a bit of fun with strumming. Trying to get strumming in time, not stopping and all of that sort of stuff. With strumming, it needs to be continuous and you need to be able to keep strumming even if the chords go wrong. So strumming really wants to become an automated part of the guitar journey, and the best way of developing that is repetition. Repetition, and a little bit more repetition, then repetition while you try and distract yourself, so learning to go 2 and 3, 4, and then being able to talk about other stuff or whatever while the pattern keeps going is also really important. Now, if you're a real beginner, that's going to be quite a difficult thing, but just training up so you've still got this 2 and 3, 4, 1, 2 and 3, 4, and it's going to keep going. Now, I was kind of expecting myself to muck that up, seeing as I was trying to demonstrate it, but actually it seems to be going pretty well so far. 1, 2, and 3, 4. I think I've managed to keep it going pretty consistently. We'll see if I can. I'm trying to think about what's going on the computer screen. I don't think it's gone wrong yet, but You get the idea. You're trying to do it over and over and over again, so it just becomes this automated kind of sequence that your brain goes, oh, we're doing that strumming pattern, and it sends out the signal for doing that. Because if you're thinking about your chord changes and maybe singing at the same time as well while you're playing, this rhythm part really wants to become as automated as you can. So repetition is the key thing here. I'm going to give you one more pattern to have a look at today, and that is adding an up strum after beat 3 as well. So 2 up strums in the bar. So we'll have 1, 2, and 3, and 4. 1, 2, and 3, and 4. I don't want you to worry too much about tempo. You might find that at this stage you're going 1, 2, and 3, and 4, or even slower. But most people find that really slow is actually really hard as well. So you're looking for that kind of, probably around this sort of tempo. 1, 2, and 3, and 4. If you want to go faster, 2, and 3, and 4. 1, 2, and 3, and 4. You can. The key thing here, the important thing to get once you're kind of comfortable with the mechanics, is that relaxed feeling of the arm. That's really the biggest deal. When it comes to strumming, the arm wants to feel relaxed. Really, really relaxed. 1, 2, and 3, and 4. 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Even it's like the down strums are just using gravity to drop it down. Then I'm lifting it up, and then gravity pulls it back down again. It really wants to feel that loose. 2 and 3 and 4. 1, 2, and 3 and 4. Now, when you're practicing this during the week, you'll probably find that you spend most of the time just on the very first pattern. So just using that 1 upstroke after beat 2. This second pattern that I've just shown you, down, down, up, down, up, down, 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 up, down, up, down, is a precursor to the most common strumming pattern of all time, which we're going to be checking out next week. So the more practice you can do on that pattern, this one, down, down, up, down, up, down, 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 up, down, up, down, the more practice you do on that, the easier it's going to be next lesson to get into this fantastic strumming pattern. I call it Old Faithful, but it is easily the most commonly used strumming pattern of all time. It's definitely worth a look at. But when you're practicing through the week, start with the simpler one with just the 1 upstroke. If you're feeling confident with it after a minute or a couple of minutes practice, then see if you can go through and start working on this second pattern. When it comes time to doing your songs, okay, the chords that we looked at this week are fairly easy, and there's some great songs that just use those chords along with chords that we've done before. So the chord changes aren't that difficult. So a really good thing is to try and incorporate some of these strumming patterns. So just looking at that first one, going 1, 2, and 3, and 4. 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Maybe mix it into, you know, you might have A minor, E minor, A minor again. And that might be the whole song. There's a few songs that just use A minor and E minor that run like that for the whole tune. The thing about, if you're not practicing with my beginner song course app, is that you need to make sure that you stay in time. What you don't want to do is to go like 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and then change chords. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and then stop, and then change chords. You've got to keep the rhythm going. The rhythm has to say 1, 2, and 3, and 4. So 1, 2, and 3, and 4, change. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, change. Even if the chord goes wrong, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4, it's okay. You've got to try and keep the strumming going, which is why I think that beginner song course app is so great for people learning their rhythm, which is, for most people, the hardest part. So if we can nip that and really get your rhythm sounding strong, you'll be a much better guitar player sooner.
So it's all about capos to see.
Hey, how you doing? Justin here, and today we're going to talk all about capos, or capos. The pronunciation changes depending on what part of the world you live in. I tend to call them a capo. I know Americans call them capos. Doesn't really make any difference. It's the same thing. And perhaps you've heard people talk about them.
Yeah, I know what it does. So like... Yeah, a good song.
you doing? Justin here. Today we are checking out Seven Nation Army by the White Stripes. Now, it's kind of a simple riff, but having learnt this just a few weeks ago left-handed, it's definitely nowhere as simple as I make it look when I'm playing right-handed. Remember, I've been playing guitar for a long time, and I always thought, oh, this riff's so easy, you know, they'll all find that riff simple. And then when I flipped it over and tried it left-handed, I was like, nope, this is hard, a lot harder. Let me take you through what we're going to do now. So we're going to use our first finger, and it's going to be on the 5th string, almost all the way through the riff. Let's say all of the way through except for this little bit that I'll talk about a little later in the video. So just using the first finger. Ideally, we want the tip of the finger to be touching the thicker string, just up here, the very tip of the finger, and then the rest of the finger lifts up enough so the rest of the strings are muted. So if I'm strumming all of the strings, you can hear just that one note is ringing out. Now, it's easier said than done. That's what you want to be aiming for, but it's probably going to feel very difficult to do that at the beginning. So especially the first few times, don't be surprised if it doesn't work like that at all, okay? You're also going to be picking that 5th string over and over again. Now, for most people, you're going to find using an anchor. So using a couple of fingers, a little finger and third finger maybe, just resting on the guitar, so you can do your little pick. Just use down picks for now. Later on you might get into using some up picks, but just using an anchor and then using a down pick to play that note, the first finger at the 7th fret on the 5th string. Now we're going to play that note twice, then we move the first finger up to the 10th fret, back to the 7th fret, down to the 5th fret, 3rd fret, and then 2nd fret. So the frets 7, 7, 10, 7, 5, 3, 2, 7. So that's, for most people, will be the 3rd dot on your guitar. If you've got dots along the top or in the front of the fretboard, the 3rd dot is usually the 7th fret. Occasionally people have a dot in the 1st fret, and sometimes people don't have a dot in the 3rd fret. I'm sure you can count and figure out which one your guitar has, right? So 7th fret. Now the 10th fret is always going to be 2 back from the double dots. So the 12th fret, in this guitar it's just got 1 block in the front, but on the top it shows 2 dots. That's meaning the 12th fret. So it's 2 back from there is the 10th fret. So you're going 7, 7, 10, 7, 5, 3, 2. The second time a fish is going 3, 5, 3, 2. So 7, 7, 10, 7, 5, 3, 2, 7, 7, 10, 7, 5, 3, 5, 3, 2. Okay, that will be the fret count. Now the rhythm for this tune is remarkably complicated to count. It's got this thing, it's called a crotchet triplet is the proper big musical name for it. But basically it makes it a really hard one to count, like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and you're much better off just listening to the song. Okay, so have a listen to the original recording. Most of you will be familiar with it anyway, but just hear that 1, 1, 2, 3. The only other bit in the song is a little bit where it goes G to A. This is G, the 3rd fret of the thicker string, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 frets up to the 5th fret on the thicker string, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, even if you leave out the, I think I left it out then when I was just running through it a few times. It doesn't really matter, to be honest. If you're playing it with a band, it'll matter. At this stage, level 3 beginner's guitar course, man, it's going to be a struggle. I found this so much harder than I thought it was going to be. It's only 1 finger. Like I was thinking, well, maybe I should get you guys using different fingers for it or whatever, but learning left-handed while doing this course for you guys has been one of the most enlightening things I could have done, because stuff like that, it's really difficult. You know, just making the skips, making the jump and getting the finger in the right position, you're going to find it fairly difficult. At least I found it really difficult. So I'm expecting that most of you guys will too. All of these things, these riffs that I'm giving you in this course, have got something about them that I want you to get familiar with. With this one, it's about moving up and down the neck a little bit, getting a bit further up the dusty end. It's about playing the one string consistently, which isn't the thickest string, it's the 5th string, so you need a little bit more accuracy with the finger, so probably accuracy with the picker, rather. So you're going to have to probably use some anchors, which is a good thing. Getting used to the rhythm and the timing of that particular riff. There's a whole heap of little benefits from having a go at playing this song. We'll probably revisit it later because it's a great song for playing in other ways as well. But just as a fun beginner thing, you shouldn't be aiming to be like playing it perfectly along with the record at this stage. It's just something for you to have a go at, get your fingers moving, and it's fun. It's a really recognizable, cool riff that many of you are going to enjoy playing. At least I hope so.
Nice. Hell yeah. That also like messed up as well. Let's go. And like his app. It's okay, I guess. Also, I didn't mark shit. Just mark them. Alright, yeah. Good, let's go. Module 3 is done. What time is it? 6:50. Module 4. Let's see. Beginner finger stretches. Oh, this might be useful actually. The D minor chord. Meet the metronome. Or yeah, that one will be useful too. Guitar tab. Sunshine of Your Love. Sounds again, I might do it later instead of now. I don't know, but like it'd be nice to like chop things up into its own thing, right? Rather than having two and shit like in the same thing. But yeah, okay, like yeah, I will end the stream, but if I am gonna continue tonight, then I'll do it. I'll do the whole thing. This is 40 minutes long. Yeah. And there's a few that I can skip around. So yeah. I can do it a bit later. Right now, I'm gonna take a break for a bit. And again, if I don't do it tonight, then I'll just do it tomorrow. Because, you know, I am saving these for the whole, like, stream and shit. So yeah. I fucked up. Alright. Yeah. I'll continue tonight. Hopefully. But yeah, no, that's all for now. See you guys in the next lesson.